Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we are diving into a really fascinating and, yeah, kind of dense academic paper. It uses psychoanalytic theory, think Freud, think Jung, to get at the heart of Jewish identity. But it asks a question that's absolutely crucial for understanding our world today, no matter who you are. And really, it all boils down to this one powerful question. Is your identity, who you fundamentally are, shaped by how the world sees you, this external image they project onto you? Or is it built from the inside out, from a set of internal laws, texts, and traditions? That tension, right there, is what we're going to unpack. So here's our roadmap. First up, we'll look at what the paper calls the identity trap. Then we'll get into the historical defense against it, this idea of a symbolic fortress. After that, we'll see how modernity throws a whole new challenge into the mix. And finally, we'll wrap it all up by looking at the ongoing tug-of-war between these forces. Okay, so let's jump right in with part one. The identity trap. The paper kicks off with a massive psychological problem. What happens when a group is in danger of being completely defined, not by who they are, but by a hostile outside gaze? To get our heads around this, the paper uses a pretty cool concept from psychoanalysis called the collective shadow. You can think of it like the dark side of a whole society's personality. It's all the stuff, the greed, the aggression, the selfishness, that a society just refuses to see in itself. So, every society has these two faces, right? On one hand, there's the glowing self-image it wants to believe in. We're generous, we're moral, we're noble. But on the other hand, you've got all these ugly traits lurking in that collective shadow. And a society has to do something with all that darkness. It has to go somewhere. And that something is a psychological trick called projection. It works in 3 steps. First, the society shoves its dark side way down deep, out of sight. Then, it takes all those unwanted traits and basically throws them onto another group, a scapegoat. And the result? The society gets to feel pure and righteous, because, hey, all the bad stuff isn't in us anymore. It's out there in them. Now, here's where the paper's analysis really focuses. It argues that centuries of anti-Semitic stereotypes created the perfect screen for this projection. This figure of the imaginary Jew, as the paper calls it, became a dumping ground for that collective shadow. The financial manipulator stereotype absorbed a society's own greed, the conspirator absorbed its own lust for power, and so on. And this is what makes it such a vicious trap, a real double bind. The paper argues that once that projection is locked in, anything the targeted group does gets twisted to confirm the stereotype. If you try to assimilate, you're seen as deceptive. If you resist, you're seen as aggressive. If you succeed, well, that's just proof of a conspiracy. It's like being trapped inside a funhouse mirror you can't escape. So how on earth do you defend against a trap like that? Well, according to this analysis, traditional Judaism came up with an incredibly powerful defense, building a massive internal identity system that the paper calls the symbolic fortress. And this fortress isn't built with stones and mortar. It's built using something called the symbolic order. So if the trap exists out there in the world of images and stereotypes, the defense has to be built in a totally different realm, the world of words, of law, of text. It's a structure of meaning that shapes you from the inside out, long before the outside world gets a chance. The ultimate example of this is halacha, or traditional Jewish law. The paper presents this as way more than just a set of rules. It's a total blueprint for existence. I mean, it governs everything: what you eat, how you mark time, how you do business, even how you speak. It's constantly writing its own meaning onto your life, which acts as a powerful shield against the definitions the outside world tries to impose. And the training ground for this identity is the yeshiva, the seminary. The whole point here isn't just to memorize facts, it's to immerse yourself completely, to jump into a massive ongoing debate that stretches back for centuries. Your identity isn't something you find by looking in a mirror, it's something you forge by finding your own voice within this gigantic, ancient conversation. A quote from the source material just nails it. It says, "The yeshiva student learns to be a subject of the text, the ultimate defense against the deadly image projected from the outside." The whole idea is that you're shaped by the word, not the image. That's the fortress. But of course, the story doesn't just end there. The paper then throws a massive wrench in the works: modernity. It argues that modern liberal forms of Judaism fundamentally changed this defense system, leading to what it calls a thinning of that symbolic fortress. The first huge shift is about where authority comes from.
Instead of an identity based on submission to a binding divine law, the focus shifts to individual autonomy, to personal conscience, to informed choice. The center of gravity moves from an external code to the internal self.
The second big shift comes from the world of academia, from biblical criticism. This changes how the foundational text, the Torah, is understood. In this view, it's seen less as a perfect single book dictated directly by God, and more as a divinely inspired library, written and edited by multiple human hands over a long period of time. And you can see the whole structural change laid out really clearly here. Authority moves from divine law to individual choice. The status of the core text shifts, and this is so important. The primary axis of your identity tilts from a vertical one, your relationship with God and the law, to a horizontal one, your relationship with other people and the society you live in. So what happens when that internal symbolic order gets thinned out? Well, the paper argues that people start searching for identity somewhere else, and often they end up back in the world of external images. This could mean finding your identity through fitting into society, or by reacting against anti-Semitism, or through a connection to culture and ancestry, or through the state of Israel as a really powerful, visible symbol. And this brings us to the paper's grand conclusion, what it calls the unceasing dialectic. This is where the whole argument comes together in this one ongoing tension between the internal word and the external image. But here's the key takeaway. The paper isn't saying, here's a problem and here's how to fix it. Not at all. It's framing this as the fundamental condition of modern Jewish identity. It's a constant, never-ending negotiation between that powerful external image and whatever remains of the internal code. Now let's just zoom out and connect this to our world right now. Think about it. We live in an age of Instagram, TikTok, viral videos, a 24/7 news cycle. The power of the image, what the paper calls the imaginary, is probably at an all-time high. And at the exact same time, all traditional systems of meaning, all of those symbolic orders, are under enormous strain. And this leaves us with a final, really provocative question that goes way beyond just one group. I mean, for all of us, living in a world that is completely saturated with images telling us who to be, what to buy, how to think, what does it even mean to try and build an identity from the word? From a text, a personal code, a set of principles you hold dear? It's a question that in many ways defines the challenge of our time.